My name is Angelina Avadano, and this is Interspace, where we explore the spaces between us. Join me for discussions on a series of realities with thinkers, writers, thought leaders, and artists. Sharon O'Brien is a lifelong alchemist. Her compassion, listening skills, kindness, and wonderful sense of humor have been her gifts over her lifetime. As a lifelong learner, searching for her purpose, she shares pieces of her story and her appreciation for the lessons learned. Sharon has been married for over 30 years to her loving husband, David, and shares the love of 2 adult daughters, Ashley and Molly, and 2 grandpups, Guinness and Tater. She is currently using her skills as a Reiki practitioner, Reiki teacher, and part-time contract employee. I'm so happy to welcome my friend, Sharon O'Brien, to Interspace. Hi, Sharon. Welcome to Interspace.
Hi, Angelina. Thank you for having me today.
I am really happy to be with you, and I'm looking forward to our conversations. Our conversations always make my day. So I want to say that, can you believe that it has been almost 5 years since we met?
Wow.
Did you know that?
I did not know that. That's crazy. It does not seem like it's been 5 years.
Right. And you came into the college I was working at, the community college, down the hall in my first year of being there. And so I don't remember if it was the spring semester or the fall semester when you started in 2016. Do you remember?
I started, I started in July, the end of July. So I was there when you came back onto campus in the fall. And,
okay.
Yeah.
So I had only had 1 semester under my belt, and then you came along, and I just knew right away that we were going to be friends, but I had no idea just how important you would become in my life, and just you were one of my closest friends, and I just adore you. So I'm so happy to get to have this time with you.
I'm really excited about this too.
So what I wanted to talk, don't you start laughing.
I'll try.
What I wanted to start with, we have both gone through so many changes together in this last 5 years. It's really been amazing. Can you think back to 2016 and where you were then and where you are now? Because you have recently gone through quite a transformation in your own life and made some big changes and big decisions. But can you reflect back on where you were at that time in your life?
Oh my gosh. I feel like there is like a version 1 of Sharon that was left behind. And I am like, I'm version 2 because so many things have changed. Not all of them, but a lot of my patterns and my thought processes have taken a complete transformation, which I'm really thankful for. Sharon in 2016, she needed a lot of care and a lot of help. And thankfully, I met you, and you introduced me to a few other folks that I sought out, and they were able to help me along this journey, which I'm really thankful to you for.
Oh, thank you. Well, when you say you've changed these old patterns and these, I don't know exactly what you said. You said patterns and something else, but so what is different? How do you feel? What is different now?
I guess I don't look at everything with those protections that I had up. I've let them down, and I am a stronger person now. The fear has faded. The fear of, rejection and shame and guilt and all of those things that I picked up along the way since childhood. I'm still in the process because I think as long as we we have our bodies on this earth. We are going to be in the process of searching for that light, that higher self that we all have. But I think in the last 5 years, my growth process has been sped up immensely, which I'm really grateful for. And I think that's because of I was finally open to it, and I was willing to put in the time and the work to do it. So it's, yeah.
Well, you've made some really big changes recently as you decided to pursue other things in your life and leave that position. A position, you were an administrative assistant at the college, but I know that as you came in and we were talking about what you wanted to do with your life, you were taking some courses, you were really passionate about helping students and education, and yet you have come through this 5 years to some big decisions. And how did that sort of unfold for you?
It was a slow unfolding. And, in the beginning, it was I just recently came to the understanding that, I'm really just here on this earth to be happy. And I always found happiness and love in whatever my choices were, but it was always a choice with caution and waiting for the hammer to drop. And I realized recently that I was dropping the hammer.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's quite an insight.
Yeah.
But most people I know, and me included, Sharon, would say that you're one of the happiest people we've met. So even back in 2016. So what do you mean when you say you realize that you're just here to be happy? I mean, weren't you happy before?
I was happy before. And I think it's more, I identified with what I did as being who I was. And I realized that is not who I am. I am not my job. I am not the things that I do. I don't identify with that as being who I have to be anymore. So in other words, I listen to my gut more, and I want to do things that make me feel alive and feel like I'm growing. So it's hard to put into words, but I think I just listen to my gut and my intuition now, whereas before I listened to all of the outside forces of the world and what I thought the world and people wanted me to be.
Yeah, that's a really hard, I mean, of course, I know because we spend a lot of time talking about these things on our walks. You've been my pandemic walking partner. And, but we talk about these things, and I think you indicated before, we'll always be working with this. This will always be an ongoing process, but that internal chatter that is constantly cutting one down, making you second guess your decisions, all the what ifs, all the control. We could both say, I think we're control freaks in recovery. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
And we help each other through our, letting go of that control, which has been such a long part of our DNA, is trying to keep everything together. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, the control was definitely out of fear, and that the control is what kept me safe. And I realized really that was the one thing that was really hurting me the most, was holding on so tight. I've had some health issues too that I think all stem from trying to control every waking moment of my life. And that in turn means that I have to control. In the past I felt like I had to control all of the people around me as well. And wow, that kind of stunk.
Yeah. I know. I know I came to terms with that myself. It's like, why do I think that I know how everyone should be acting and what they should be doing? Like, where does that come from? And it is that childhood just trying to keep your environment stable. Yeah. And trying to keep the bad things away, right? Trying to keep from being hurt. And then you carry that through in your family life, in all of your relationships, in your work environment. And you and I both at work, we've talked a lot about the anxiety that we would put on ourselves in the work environment, and just because of that control of trying to meet deadlines and trying to make sure everyone was okay with what we were doing. And it is no way to live it. It's completely exhausting.
Oh yeah, it is exhausting. And I think when you say that, like that was another catalyst, was me working myself into pain. So working where, I needed to go see a chiropractor because I had a pinched nerve, because I was, hunched over my computer, stressed, and, thinking to myself, I have to get all of this done and it has to be perfect. And, I don't want to let anybody down. And wow, that was exhausting. And it was unnecessary. The world would have loved me no matter what. As long as I loved myself. And that's what I had to come to the realization of, was that, wow, Sharon, you just have to love yourself, and it all kind of falls into place.
It does. And yet, those words, Sharon, they seem like such a cliche, don't they? It seems like we see it all the time. And we're like, yeah. But what does it really mean, right? To make yourself a priority, and to discover the ways that we are harming ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I still struggle with that. It still makes me uncomfortable when someone gives me a gift, or someone does something nice for me. It still gives me that little, like, ooh, I need to do something back for them, or I have to return the favor right away, to let them know that I appreciate them. And sometimes, like, I don't want to accept gifts because I didn't think I was worthy of them. And I am beginning to appreciate the gifts that come to me and accepting them, and knowing that I don't have to reciprocate. I can reciprocate through the love I give, and it'll come naturally. It will come naturally. I do truly believe in karma, and the world is what you put in will come back to you. But on the other hand, I don't look for that as, either. It's just, it will happen naturally. Yeah. But it was hard. It's still hard. But yeah.
Yeah. I think uncovering those old messages that we have internalized from maybe even before birth, who knows? I don't know where they come from. They are so deep. And as we work through those, it's just been, you've always been a comfort to me, and your presence is always a gift enough. I think my favorite time at Massasoit so far was you moving into the office across the hall from me. That was the best time ever. And the joking, laughing, and also the heartfelt conversations and the support that we gave each other through all of the changes that we've gone through in the last 5 years is pretty miraculous, actually, what we've both gone through. And yet, and here we are, here we are. And I would say, if I can say, women in our 50s having the best time ever, really coming into that and starting to fully appreciate ourselves.
Yes, I am so grateful that I've been able to just get to where I am now. I think a lot about where I was 5 and 10 years ago, in my mind and my mindset and my thought processes, and I'm just so grateful that I have a much larger perspective of the world and myself. And I'm pretty certain that a lot of that stems from just beginning a meditation process daily. In your introduction to Tom, you've had on for 2 podcasts, both of you have been instrumental in my growth process.
So how has meditation helped you to come through this process? Because I think people, and I don't know if you felt this way too, but it's like, I don't have time to meditate. How am I going to do that every day? Right. It's a really hard shift to make, to say, I'm going to do this. I deserve this. This is really the way to transform my experience in my life. But it takes a long time to commit to that.
It does, and I never would have thought that I would have been able to meditate. I am one of those people that would say, but my mind doesn't stop. It talks to me constantly. It doesn't shut up. So I cannot meditate. I would say this, I cannot meditate because my mind doesn't stop talking. And so, but Tom really helped, and he's said, you don't have to tell it to be quiet. Just try it. Just try this process. So I said, okay. I was open to trying anything. I knew that I needed to make changes in my life. And I was willing to try it. And after I would say it took me a while. It took me a while, but after a while, I looked forward to it. I looked forward to that that time to myself. It was just my time. And I think you really helped me too. I think even before the meditation, it was when you had the Feed the Muse at the college, and you talked about having your own space and creating your own little mini sanctuary, that it's just for you. And that really, that gave me permission to put myself first for just a little bit. And then the meditation was just another thing, another piece of me that I took back. And slowly, I think over the last 5 years, I've been taking pieces of myself back and building myself up to who I really am, and getting rid of all of those fears that were attached to me. So
yeah, you say taking pieces of yourself back, and I totally hear what you're saying, and I know what that feels like. But for others who are listening, where were those pieces? Where did they go? Where were they?
I think they were there. Like, I think about this. When you're a child, you're, for the most part, you're happy. You know what I mean? You don't have all the responsibilities, all the, well, for me anyway, I can't say this as for everyone, because some children are born into trauma as soon as they're born, you know. And I don't know because I'm not aware of it, but I was born and I could feel it deep down inside that I want to laugh. I like to laugh. I like to be with people and feel good. And I've always wanted that. That's what I've always gone after, is to be around people who are light and full of laughter. So, but I lost that. I lost that along the way because I thought that I had to take care of people. I thought along with being happy meant I had to make everybody else happy. And that was the story I was telling myself.
Yeah, I think as children we're so innocent, and we experience the world with such a, freshness and openness to the immediacy of what's happening in each day. And then we spend the rest of our lives and meditation just trying to get back to that. Just trying to get back, because as you grow up, you internalize all those messages that's not okay, that's make believe isn't real, that the imagination is something to be, boxed up and put in line and only utilized for purposes of whatever it is, whatever treadmill we get on and that we buy into, education, work, whatever it happens to be, right?
Yeah.
And you're right that laughter brings us back to that, innocence of childhood, of just being in the moment, just being full of life and being in the sunshine, or just experiencing what's right in front of us. Silliness. Yeah. That's what I love about our relationship, is that we get to be silly a lot.
Yes. I agree. Like we have a lot of very deep, serious conversations, but we always seem to find the humor in even those deep, serious conversations. And for me, that's what makes it feel real. It's like, okay, like that was really hard, and like we both talked about some really hard things, but we can laugh about it too, because we're still here, we're fine, and we're still growing. So there's a lot to be happy about.
There is. And I know that just you saying that makes me think of, we've gone through some difficult times in our friendship too, where it really made us confront all of our fears and all of our protections, and trying to just allow the other person to be where they are when they're triggered or whatever that is. And, but always having that unconditional love that no matter what will come back. It can be tough. It can be periods of really difficult times, but I think we both allowed each other, to be who we are, and to, without judgment, most of the time, without judgment, just allow, because that's hard, right? The no judgment part is the hard part.
Well, I think when you say no judgment, I think the no judgment comes through growth. Like because there's going to be judgment while your ego is involved, and it's just getting beyond that ego point of it, knowing that really deep down it's that love is there. So, and letting that love just outshine the ego and take over. And that's when it's just beautiful. Yeah. But I think we need that. I think we need that to grow, because through those times that we have had, like that push and pull, I think that's where I've really learned a lot about myself. And it made me see, like, oh, sometimes I really do push people away, and I don't, I don't need to do that to protect myself. All I have to do is communicate.
Yeah, but that's hard.
Yes.
It can be really scary. It's really, And I don't know about you, but the few times that we've had to communicate about difficult stuff, I have felt all that, as you say, it really gives us insight into our growth process and what we need to look at, because I will come up against all this fear and this like contraction in the pit of my stomach. And it's so silly because it's just about communications. Like, what is this all about keeping everything inside, not really wanting to speak, what's happening honestly. Being authentic is not that much fun and very easy at various points in our lives.
No, but that's where we grow the most. And I in the past, I would never say anything that that would hurt a friend. I still don't say things that hurt friends, but I'm honest. I don't hold back. If I have something that I need to say to you that may hurt your feelings, I'll put it out there. I'll put it out there with love and kindness, and you always respond with love and kindness back. That takes a while too. Like I had to throw a couple things out there to test the waters to see, that's what people do. But I think I'm getting better with that too. So my mindset is that really it's my movie, it's my play, and I will live it as I choose.
What do you mean? Am I just a bit player in your drama over there, Sharon?
Kinda.
Well, it's actually true. We all do that, right?
Yeah,
we all think we're in our what Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, but we cast ourselves in the leading role, and everyone else is just there to, make us shine.
Yes. Yeah, but I have to say, you shine very bright with me, so.
Oh, okay. Best supporting actress.
Yes, you're the best supporting actress.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've made this big shift from the college into your own process. Can you tell me what you've been doing? People ask me all the time, what's up with Sharon? And I'm like, she's just like living her life. And so can you talk about the shift that you made, how you came to that decision, and what was the process as you are, I guess you're not done, but
No.
How is that process going?
So,
tell me about it.
I think, the pandemic had a lot to do with having the time to actually look at my life, review it, and say, okay, is this what I really want to be doing? Is this fulfilling me? Is this where I want to be for the next, say, 5 to 10 years? Because when you go, like this job, the job that I had was, you take it, you hope to make it for 10 years so you can have your retirement and like have the benefits. And I thought, oh, really? Do I want to give myself away? And just because of that, is that the prize that I'm sacrificing all of my growth and happiness for? And I thought, no, I want to do more. I want to explore all these other things in my life and not wait till I retire. I want to do it now. I loved the people I worked with, but the daily tasks were not, they were not lighting that fire. They were, I just felt like I felt like when I got up in the morning, came to my chair and my computer, I would plug myself in, and sit there and get the work done. And then at the end of the day, I would unplug, but I was exhausted. It was like it sucked every ounce of my battery out. And I didn't want to do that anymore. It wasn't fulfilling me. So, you know what I went through.
Well, I do. And even as I'm listening to you talk about that, that was not a decision that happened in weeks or months. I think you came to that probably throughout the whole course of the time that I've known you. You came in as administrative assistant in my division, and then you moved on to a higher position within the college. In fact, you kind of reached the pinnacle of your career path. You had made it. You had made it to the top of your career path. So this was no small decision.
No. And I want to talk about that a little bit too, because when you say, like, I worked really hard. I worked very hard at everything I did, always. And I'm not bragging. It's
no, it's true. I watched you. You did. You were phenomenal.
It was just something that was inside of me that I felt that was who I was just to do it all and do it the best I could do. So every job that I've been at, that's what I did. I worked till I got to as high as I could go, and then I would go and try something different, and then work hard and reach that goal that I didn't know I had set, and then I would try something different. I'm pretty certain that's what I had done at this last position too, was hit the point where I don't think there's anything more I can do here. And so when I was looking at, well, what is my next place to set off on, I thought, well, I'm just going to choose something for me. It's my turn now. And I still don't know exactly what it is that I'm going to do.
Are you going to run away and join the circus? What?
I'm not sure, but I have
What do you want to be when you grow up, Sharon?
That's the question I've been asking myself since forever. And I don't know, but I do feel really good about where I'm going, which I don't know where I'm going, but I feel good about it. And I think because I trust in the world. I trust in the universe to take care of me. I trust that I trust my higher self to guide me to where I need to be. And it's worked out pretty well so far. As a child, I worked, I had a paper route when I was probably 10 or 11. And then I worked in high school at these little factory jobs. And then I worked at a payroll company and worked up to a manager. And then I worked at a college, at Wheaton College, and I worked part-time and then got a full-time job in admission and did really well there too. So I think, and then on to Massasoit, where I enjoyed learning all of that process too. And I think that it's time just to explore other things too. But what my point was that I'm trying to find the right words. All of those jobs that I had, I fell into them. Someone said, Sharon, this job over at the payroll company, a friend's mother worked there, and I had just quit a job, a very good job at a bank, and I was probably 18, 19 years old.
Why did you quit the job at the bank?
I felt like I was being disrespected. 17, 18. I don't know exactly. I was young. And but I have to say, I worked at the bank, and then the bank merged with another bank. So I was driving to Dedham every day with a group of girls. We all worked together. But my position at the old bank had melded in with this other position. So I had a supervisor they asked me to file in between of me doing research. But the supervisor kept pulling me from the research because he wanted me to file. And he addressed us as his girls.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so I would be in the research room doing research for, what I was doing was looking in microfiche for lawsuits, finding forged checks and other things. And that, I loved doing that. It was fun. It was like finding prizes all over the place. It was awesome. But I don't know, it just, for some reason, I felt I was disrespected because he said, you're one of my girls. You need to get in the file room and start filing. And I said, I am not one of your girls. I'm leaving.
Wow.
Yeah. But what I didn't think of was that I had carpooled into Dedham with my 3 friends, and I had no way of getting home.
So you walked out and sat outside on the curb for the rest of the day.
It's like Dolly Parton in 9 to 5, like, I'm leaving. And I went outside and I did that exactly. I sat outside on the sidewalk, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do now? There were no cell phones. There was nothing back then. So I thought, I have to sit out here in shame for 3 hours until the rest of the girls are done working. And then the director of the department that I worked in came out, and he was my boss's boss. And he sat down on the sidewalk with me, and he asked me to come back in. And he said, I'll take care of this. Don't worry about it. Please come back in. And I was so ashamed. I said no. But I think deep down inside, I knew that wasn't the right place for me. Mm. So I do think there was I believe there's a higher force that, and I like to call them my guides, and they kind of guide me to where I need to be. They protected me that day. They, like in my movie, I had this man, I made this character disrespect me, or what I thought was disrespect, so I could move on. That wasn't the right place for me. That was not the right place for me. So after that, that's when I got that job at the payroll company. I moved up quickly, and things started to, I gained a lot of skills that really helped me. I did not have a college degree. I still don't have a college degree. I struggled with that from the time I was, 20. I'll tell the quick story, but I graduated from high school when I was 17, then went on to college. I went to Bridgewater State, commuted, and then my dad lost his job. And so I had gotten a semester in, and then my father lost his job, and I needed to go and get a job. We needed to pay the mortgage for the house. So I did that, and I always felt like a failure. And I thought to myself, I will go back to college. I will go back. And then about a year and a half, 2 years later, I applied to UMass Amherst, and I was accepted. And I thought that was the answer. And then I got there, and I couldn't do it. I was homesick. I felt like I was really a sophomore or junior in with second semester freshmen, and I couldn't really connect. And that college was a city. I remember I walked to UMass Amherst the first day. I had an 8 a.m. class for economics that was across campus. Now, I started second semester in the winter. There was probably a foot of snow on the ground. So I trek across campus, get to this economics class, and there was a sign on the door, "Class has been canceled."
Oh my God.
So as I'm walking back to my dorm, I slid I figured I'd cross over the library stairs just to cut out some of the trek. I fell and slid down the stairs, like 7 or 8 stairs on my butt. I got up and I said, "Yep, I am never going back to economics again." So the first day of classes, I had already taken 1 class off my list.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. You've never told me that story.
Oh, really?
Well, you told me the part about getting to the class and the sign being on the door. We've talked about that at, how just disheartening that would be for students. But you never told me the other part.
Oh, yeah, it was horrible. And I did not have I was not expecting the winter that was there in Amherst. I had just regular boots, like no winter clothes. It was horrible. I was defeated. I was done. So, let me just say, by March, I was only going to French class. That was.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. And this is why, though. This is why you were always so able to be with students who were struggling at the college.
Oh, yeah.
I know this was one of the reasons, because you really experienced some of the difficulty.
Oh, I experienced, I am the classic first gen student with absolutely no clue what to do. And I think even so, because I was in with students, if I had started as a freshman with other freshmen, they would have guided me and we would have helped each other. But I was a freshman in with second semester freshmen. They had done it all. And I remember I got some sort of notification about my Pell Grant. And I was like, "What the heck is this?" I said to my roommate. And she's like, "Oh, well, you have to go see the bursar." I go, "What the hell's a bursar?"
I know all these words. What are these words? I felt like that so much when I came to New England. I felt like a fish out of water in grad school and came here. And there was just like you said, the colleges were like cities, and I just felt, and everything moved so much quicker than in the Midwest. And I just felt like it was just a very difficult transition. But as you know, both of us, we go through those times, and they just are part of what makes up who we are and our ability to be compassionate with students.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Others. Yeah.
I do think that experience was really what I needed. That again, I'm going to say that the universe and my guide said, "Sorry, Sharon, this is really going to suck for a little while, but you'll thank me later."
Really? Well, what's so interesting, if you think about it, and I don't know if you have thought about it, but here you were like, "I'm not going back. College is not for me." And yet you've spent most of your career in college.
Exactly.
What is that about?
It's my destiny. And it's not, I think I was always striving. I always thought that I had that feeling deep down inside that higher education was something that I am connected to. I thought it was just me getting my college degree, and I realized very recently that it has nothing to do with me getting my degree. It has to do with my spiritual growth and my getting closer to what I'm supposed to be doing. It has nothing to do about all the other people that I thought it had to do with. It has to do with me. It has to do with accepting myself. And yes, I needed it to help. I didn't need it. Let me say, those experiences that I had got me to where I am now. And I never felt more fulfilled than when a student would come in and ask for help. And they, by their words, I was like, oh, I know exactly where they are in their head, and I can make it easier for them. Mm-hmm. And I really do think I made a difference when I had that position. And that's the part I loved about that job. Mm-hmm. But I knew too that part of the job had nothing to do with the job. It was just like, oh, I'm just supposed to be me. I don't have to bury myself in paper to be me, to have that little part that I associated love with. That can be in my everyday life without hurting myself. Yeah.
Without hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Wow. So how are you bringing that into your life now?
Well, I recently, in January, I finished up my Reiki certificate. So I'm hoping to explore different possibilities with that. I would like to be able to share that information and that practice with other people.
And what does that mean for you? What is that?
It's a connection to the energy that surrounds us all, and accepting that good energy and into our lives and into every moment of our day, and just being able to share that with others. And it's such a beautiful gift for me to receive Reiki, and for others to also receive Reiki.
When was the first time you experienced Reiki?
So, oh gosh, it was again the connection with you, Angelina. I think you gave me Rochelle's card. I had been working really, really hard, and I had that pinched nerve in my neck. And just really struggling with everything at the college in my administrative assistant position. And you had said, Sharon, I really think Rochelle could help you. She works at this wellness center, and she offers a lot of services. So I was like, oh, I'll go check it out. You know, I need something. I need something. So I went to see her, and I read all of the different services that she offered. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I went to see her, and I was like, I don't know exactly what I need. And she just said, well, tell me what your issues are. And I just rattled off all the complaints about work, and, you know, how it was out of my control. And, you know, I just needed help with stress. And she said, okay, we'll work with that. She said, let's start off with Reiki. And I was like, all right. I didn't know anything really about it. And so I had my first Reiki session, and I left there, and I'm like, I didn't really feel anything. I thought I was going to be like, you know, I'm like, should I be levitating? I have nothing. I have nothing. And she said, well, you know what? I made another appointment in 2 weeks. I'm like, well, maybe, I just wasn't open enough. So in between that time I saw her in the 2 weeks, my life was already starting to change. Like, my conversations with people at work were getting clearer. But at the time, I didn't know that was what was happening. I just knew something was different. So I went back to Rochelle and I'm like, all right, let's try this again. So the next time, it was just so relaxing. And I really needed that. I needed that hour of peace and tranquility. Again, still, I'm like, I don't know what it's doing for me, but I know for that hour of peace, I would pay anything for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I continued to see her. Well, I still see her today. Rochelle still is one of my guides. She's one of my helpers. But I started to recognize that there were life shifts that were happening in between the times that I would go and see her. Sometimes it would be a really challenging conversation that I would have with a family member or someone at work, and it would be hard and stressful. But it was almost like I was just going through a pile of trash, cleaning it up, and then it would be time for me to go back to see her. So all of these things would build up, and then they would clear out. And I was getting clearer and clearer. And it still works that way for me. There are some times when I'll go see Rochelle. Now I can talk about it freely with her. I'll see her, and 3 days in, like, this big life experience happens, and I can recognize them now. I'm like, oh, shoot. I didn't know that was there. I didn't know I was being such a jerk there. And then I'll recognize it, and I will adjust, and I will make that shift in my life and bring more happiness in. But I'll text Rochelle as I'm going, as it happens. Slaps me upside the face. I'll text her and I'll say, thanks a lot for that, Rochelle. She'll say, you're welcome. And then I'll go back and see her. But sometimes I'll go and I'll just receive, there'll be beautiful changes that come to me, just gifts that come to me, and awareness that comes to me. And I thank her for those as well. I take the good and the hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so how did you decide to start studying Reiki?
So I had been going to her for about 2 years, and she finished up, and she's like, oh, I have a class. I'm teaching a Reiki class this weekend. And I was like, really? I hadn't even thought about learning Reiki. So I was just like, well, do you have any room left? And she's like, I actually have one spot left. And I said, well, I'll take that spot. That was life-changing. It was a weekend course, and there were 4 or 5 other people in that class, and wow, that was life-changing. Like, I knew what Rochelle felt when she practiced Reiki. That energy that you feel all around people, I didn't really realize how strong that was. So that was life-changing for me. Like, wow, like that's how when you practice Reiki, it has nothing to do with my energy. It's the energy that's around us. And after that course, I could feel that energy. Whereas before, everyone can feel energy. When someone walks into a room, you feel their energy. Like, you're like, I want to hang out with this person, or you'll be like, yeah, this is probably the last time I'm going to talk to them. but that kind of energy is in everything. And I had never really been able to put a finger on it. And after that weekend course, I was just like, wow, this is beautiful. I want more of this, please. So, and now I was able to give myself Reiki in between the times that I was able to make an appointment with Rochelle. And I was also able to, I was giving Reiki to my pets and my husband too. He'll receive Reiki. He doesn't really know what it is, but he's happy. He's happy.
He likes to feel relaxed too, right?
Yeah,
He likes
right,
to feel that
exactly.
too.
He feels the same way I did when I went to see Rochelle, which was that peace and that tranquility, which I think we all really need in our life. It's really just another form of meditation, and that's what's going to help us all, is getting a little bit of quiet into our lives will allow that growth into whoever is willing to find it.
And then you continue your study. You continued your studies with Rochelle and finished up, you said, in January with your certificate.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of exploring and seeing where that's going to take you.
Yes. So I have a few people that have come to me to ask for Reiki sessions. So we'll see where that goes. That really makes me happy that I'm able to share that experience with others who are open to this. So that's really where I'm headed, is just to be able to share all of my experiences that I've had in the last 5 years. I remember how I felt inside before I started this process, and knowing that you don't have to feel that way. I'd like to share that with friends and people that actually want to learn how to find that peace and that tranquility, because it's available to all of us.
So, Sharon, I have to ask, how were you able to come through that? There's a barrier, I feel like, that we have to come up against, that with everything telling you that you have to stay with that job because of retirement, you have to make that money, you have to stay on that treadmill because, oh my gosh, what might happen if you stepped off, into this, this realm of the unknown where you're really fully letting go of control. Talk about, a control freak in recovery. I mean, you really let go of that, all of that, and those notions of how identity is tied to profession and what we do on a daily basis. How did you get over the fear of making that shift?
Meditation, but and trust. So, and like I said, I have other people that Tom was a good soundboard to just kind of put me back on track and just say, Sharon, just meditate and you'll get there. You'll know. You were also there, like, Sharon, listen to your gut. You know what you're supposed to be doing. And Rochelle helped me. And I actually went to see another person who kind of told me again to, listen, trust yourself. Trust your gut. Trust your intuition.
You were getting the same message from multiple locations.
Over and over again. And as you... Once I started this journey, I asked for signs that I was on the right path. And those signs would come to me. And sometimes I ignore the signs. I saw them and I was like, yeah, I'm not ready for that. But as I saw the signs and then moved forward, and then good things happened, that trust built and built and built. And that's why I can say now I trust the universe, because the universe has shown me that it's all good. It's all good. Even the things, like I said, that time working at UMass, it was tough, but it was good. Afterwards, I look back and I'm like, wow, thank you for that. I also I know I told you this, but where I worked at a nursing home, the 11 to 7 shift, when my dad lost his job, and it was a recession. It was the only job I could find. But my gosh, that was the hardest job I've ever done.
Yes, and you definitely have to say what happened on your first night. How old were you? 18?
I was 18. I was
and
18.
What happened at 11 to 7 at a nursing home on your first night?
So, like I said, this was the only job I could find, and I knew it was going to be hard, but I thought, oh, I can do it. It's changing sheets and old people. I like old people. So my first night, I got there and we go to do rounds, and a woman had passed away. So the head nurse said to one of the other aides, you and the new girl can take care of it. And she named the woman. The coroner will be here in the morning, so make sure she's ready for the coroner. And I had never seen a deceased person before. And it was traumatic just seeing these elderly folks in all different states of their lives and their suffering, and then to be told that I was going to have to bathe and prepare a woman for the coroner. So there was the other aide that was there to help me. She had been there. She'd been doing this forever. She was, her name was Mercedes, and she was like a mother to me at that job. She just kind of came over and said, honey, it'll be okay. I will walk you through this. And she stayed with me she was my round partner for the rest of the night, and she stayed with me until the morning when we had to prepare the woman for the coroner. And it took everything I had not to cry and to run away, because it was horrible. But I have to say, the woman that helped, did the process with me, she was so caring. But we finished, and the shift ended. I punched out, and my father was there to pick me up, because we only had one car. He was in the parking lot, and I got into the car, and I just burst into tears, and I begged my father, please don't make me go back there. I can't go back. And I looked over at my dad, and his head was bent down, and he was crying. And I'd never seen my dad cry before. And he said, I'm sorry, you have to. And I was like, oh. I stopped. I sucked in all my tears and wiped them all away. And I just said, oh, that's okay. That's okay. And then we drove home in silence, and that was it. I went back that night, went home. I don't think I slept. And went back again for my 11 o'clock shift. And it was the next night, there was a different nurse on who was beautiful. She was wonderful. She was kind to me, and I was like, okay, I know my place. I know what I can do here. I can do this. And I did it until I didn't have to do it anymore, till I had a friend. See, again, I had a friend. I stayed there for, I don't know, I was there for a while. And then I had a friend who said, I have this little factory job you have an opening. All you have to do is dip computer chips into this metal. And I was like, sign me up.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Sign me up.
Though you said something earlier about how because of your perspective now, you can look back at these stories of your life and you can see them in a completely different way and be grateful for the experience. What do you think that experience, I mean, what an initiation process that was. And what do you think that experience taught you about yourself?
It taught me that the world did not revolve around me. And I knew that already, but it taught me that I have to say, when I look back at it, I don't know if it really, it taught me that I was stronger than I thought I ever was, for one thing. And but it did, that whole process of caring for people and caring for that woman who had passed away in such a loving way, to say goodbye to her and take care of her body and prepare it. It was traumatic and hard, but it was beautiful too. And that whole experience of taking care of the elderly, my dad went through a lot of health issues, and he came to my home where I cared for him. And that helped me. If I hadn't seen all of those different states of elderly people in different health, different phases of health deterioration, I don't know if I would have been able to take care of my dad the way I did. Without that shocking, like, it was still very, very difficult, but it wasn't that initial shock thing that happened at the nursing home. I have a lot of stories about the nursing home, and some of them are pretty funny just because of the situations you put in. So it's like, there was some trauma, yes, but it was wow, that part of my life is just really interesting. So I'm thankful that I have that. I'm thankful I have all of those memories in my brain.
Well, you seem to be so able to look back and have this wise perspective, and you seem to have so much joy and peace about where you're at in your life. And I'm just wondering, does that stay with you every day? Just for people who are listening, who might be working through their own process, what's it really like behind the scenes?
Well, I've done a lot of work there too. I've cried for that little girl, that little Sharon that, had to struggle. I've given that child and that teenager, and I've given her permission to be sad and to mourn a lot of losses that she had. And that's really been healing for me too. Like, you're right. I for a long time I glossed over all of those things with right. Humor and sarcasm and passive aggressive remarks, but I know deep down that I went through a lot of struggles, and I feel for that little girl. I feel that for her.
It almost seems as if, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it almost seems as if, all that tension that you were holding earlier, trying to hold on. I'm kind of speaking for myself, but I think you can relate. It's all that tension that we were holding, all that control that we were trying to manifest in our lives was a way not to feel that sadness and that loss for the child that we were.
Oh, absolutely. That was the protection. That was the fear and the protection to avoid those feelings. But once you start to feel those feelings, they get lighter and that grip loosens up a little bit. But that's the scariest part, is to feel those feelings. those feelings, like when I meditate, they still come up. Like sometimes they still crop up. I'll meditate and I'll just start crying. And I'm like, what is this all about? And then it comes to me, it's like, oh, that's okay. I'm mourning another piece of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I never cried for myself. I cry for others, but I never really cried for myself. And I do that sometimes now. But it always brings me back to, well, look at you now, Sharon. Like you have all of these life experiences that you can share with people, especially my children, to let them know that you can do anything. You can really do anything. And yeah, there's going to be some really hard things that you're going to have to do. But be thankful for those too, because they will help you somewhere along the line. They will come in handy. There's always something to learn in those struggles. And that's usually where you learn the most, is at the hardest points of your life. So I know there's going to be other struggles and hills to climb, but and I'm sure when I'm climbing that hill, I might lose sight of what I'm supposed to be learning. But I think I have a little bit more awareness about what those hills are there for. So, which is helpful. When you're struggling and trying to get through something and you don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel, you just see that giant hill. It's defeating. So now at least I'm like, okay, this is just something that's here to make my life a little more interesting.
Well, yeah. You always keep it fresh, and you have really come into a beautiful point in your life. I'm just happy to be a part of it, and I'm really thankful for your friendship and your support of everything that I've been doing, and I learn from you on a daily basis, so thank you, my friend. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. It's going to be a ride.
Yes, I'm excited.
And when we see those hills, we're just going to take our sled with us, right?
Absolutely. and my snowshoes.
All right, Sharon, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Angelina.
If you would like to contact Sharon for a Reiki session or questions, please email her at smobrien1212@gmail.com. That's smobrien1212@gmail.com. You have been listening to Interspace with Angelina Avedano. My heartfelt gratitude and appreciation goes to my husband, David Needs, Senior Production Engineer. If you would like to learn more about me or my work, look for me on Facebook and Instagram, Dr. A. Avedano with Cicada Personal Metamorphosis. That's Cicada with a Y, CYCADA. Or you can email me at dr.aavedano@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. This is Angelina reminding you that we're all connected.